Speaking of basketball, one of my favorite live streams to watch. Actually, I got two. I don't watch Undisputed. I don't watch First Take. I don't watch Stephen A. Smith. I don't watch Skip Bayless. Those are not my things. And it's not telling you that you should or you shouldn't watch it, but I don't watch ESPN. I don't watch Fox Sports 1. I don't watch none of that. You know what I like to watch? Let me give a shout out to a couple of different platforms that I absolutely love. One, obviously, comes from the visibility of being in Gil's Arena. Shout out to Gilbert Arenas. Created an awesome platform. Awesome platform. Also, on top of that, shout out to my guys over there at Dreamers Pro. Dreamers Pro is a content creation platform and YouTubers that has been running up, and I've been following them since they've been at about 50,000 subscribers. They've recently crossed over the 100,000 mark, so shout out to Dreamers Pro. And then Gilbert Arenas and Dreamers Pro was having a back and forth about basketball, so absolutely great platforms. I love it when independent content creators are doing their thing, and so I always want to make sure that I give some highlights and some visibility to the ones that talk pure sports and basketball because I love it. I absolutely love it. But there was a conversation that surfaced on Gil's Arena recently, and it was talking about NBA contracts and how white money or white kids that get money and black kids that get money, when they first get their NBA money, they think differently. They think differently. And I thought it was something good for us to be able to mine through before we get into the salaries and before we get into the whole Delta Airport lounges and the Sky lounges and American Express lounges and the Centurion cars and all of that. Before we get into it, I think that this is a good conversation for us to mine through. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications. Sponsored by T. Chanley, 30% off your first order plus a free gift. And if you are not a pack chaser, if you're not in a Patreon, that link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's get to it.
Yeah, when you first get your first paycheck, right? The thing they always say is like, you should buy your mom a house, or you should take care of your parents and things like that. Like, what would be your advice for youngins coming in when they first get that paycheck? What should they do with it first?
Yeah. It depends. It depends on your situation. Now, 'cause nowadays they're a little more of these guys come from some better upbringing than a lot of us did. I don't know the percentage of it, but
now NBA now is like these guys came from.
They growing up in houses.
They ain't
growing up in the project.
Yeah, they not.
A lot of these dudes ain't growing up in the project.
Okay.
They just call it what it is. They growing up in decent. Some of them, yes. There's still some stories from guys from the inner cities in LA, that Dallas and other places that's rough. Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
But it depends on the background. To your question, it depends on what you come from. Like, there's no need for KJ to buy me a house. You know what I'm saying?
So a lot of people are not familiar with who some of these guys are. So that's Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin was an NBA player for a long time, played for a lot of teams, including New Jersey Nets, so on and so forth. Brandon Jennings was an NBA player, point guard, and then obviously Gilbert Arenas needs no introduction. But Kenyon Martin's son is now playing in the NBA. Recently got traded in the Houston trade, so he's over there in Philadelphia. I'm not the Houston trade, the Philadelphia Clippers trade. So he went from the LA Clippers over to the Philadelphia 76ers. And since he was an NBA player and now his son is an NBA player, he's saying that depending on where you come from, I don't need my son to buy me a house because I already got money. I already was in the NBA. I'm straight. But it's a lot of kids that come from impoverished environments. And so the first thing that they think of, or the first thing that we're programmed to do, is to take care of the people around us, including buy our mama a house. This is what they're talking about. So I'm going to continue to mine this out, but I want y'all to hear some more about what's going on.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't the case, then I'm not expecting it, but if he did it, what could somebody say? You know what I'm saying? What could somebody say? No, don't do that for you. No, that ain't what you're supposed to do with your money. You know what I'm saying?
But do you think parents should encourage their kids to want to buy?
Okay, so look,
something for them.
Something for themselves because you work to get there. No, okay, look, you take care of yourself first and foremost. Yeah, like, that should be the message.
Right.
But a lot of parents in a lot of situations, they live vicariously through their kids. So when they make it, it's we made it. You know what I'm saying? It's when you gonna take care of us. We need this.
A lot of these people are grooming their kids to be their retirement plan. I know a guy, he was a barber, and it was like years ago. And I said, man, why do you got so many kids? He had like 12 kids. And he said, man, one day one of these kids is going to make it and they're going to take care of me when we get older. There are people, forget the NBA. We're going to mine that out in a minute because that's bigger money. There are people that have children as their legacy, quote unquote legacy, but they're having the children so that they can either be a son husband, or they can make enough money to where they can contribute back to them, or they can take care of them. And in reality, what it's doing is continuing a cycle to where you then become interdependent on the next person, and then the next person going to become interdependent on the next person. And nobody is actually going to be able to have any level of wealth or success because you're having kids to take care of you and not the other way around. You're supposed to be taking care of your kids. I have no expectations for my daughter. As a matter of fact, and I hate to take it this way, but this is what I stand on biblically, you're supposed to leave your children somewhat of an inheritance, not debt. So whenever I see somebody pass away and they got to do a GoFundMe, I know they're not living according to what God has ordained for us to be. They're not living their life according to what God said we should do. God's will, whatever you want to label it as. You're supposed to leave your children some form of an inheritance, which basically means that you've been being productive on this earth. But what I've been seeing happening within the black community since I've been born, not necessarily in my family, but since I've been born, they raise their children to take care of them. Their children then become slaves to them. The same way that they used to have kids in order to make sure that they tended to the farm or had more workers or whatever. People are having children in order to make sure that they're taken care of. So when I see people raising their kids and they got to get them in basketball or whatever, I never force my daughter to go into anything. I would never force anybody to go into any sport. I want you to find who you are, explore, figure out what sports you like, figure out what you like as far as cultural norms, go over here and travel. I take my daughter to different places and experiences, and then I set the foundation and I'm building this thing to where if she ever decides that after she get out of college that she want to come and work for daddy, or if she want to take somewhat of a sabbatical and take 2 to 3 years or 4 years in order to go and travel the world and backpack through Europe and figure out what life is about and have experiences while her brain is still developing, I've given her that leeway and the options to be able to do so without having to worry about what comes along with it. And if she decides that she want to come and work for and take care of or take over the company that I've built, then she'll have the option to do that 10 years from now. You want to give your children options while also allowing for them to fail in controlled environments so that they actually understand what it takes in order to be successful. They're not supposed to go through the same things as you, but somehow, some way, you're supposed to give them the same lessons that you have that give them the work ethic and the character that allows for them to continue to be successful. And they're talking about expectations as far as money. When these kids, children, a lot of these guys getting into the NBA 18, 19, 20 years old, they have no clue, but they've been just going based off of what's been programmed into them. I'm going to buy my mama a house.
We need this house. It's that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's those pressures that some parents put on their kids, which is unfair. I'm saying because, the truth of the matter is you had your fucking shot and whatever,
Facts.
to be whatever you wanted to be. Whatever happened, it didn't pan out for whatever
Stop
that
living
dream
through
was,
your
if
kids.
that's what you wanted it to be. You know what I'm saying?
agree.
Right.
Don't put that
Read
on your
Super Chat
child
shortly.
that's a lot of pressure.
It's pressure because, one, he doesn't know nothing about money, and you don't know nothing about money.
Facts.
So what happens is, let's say you're the number one pick, right? You're making, $3 million. Well, so let's just say 4. Well, after taxes, you got about 2.5, right? Your parents want a house. They always want a $2 million house, right? Now you don't have that money in your account when they want it, right? You didn't get a check yet. You got drafted in the summer, right? So now you got to borrow money from your agent, right? You got to borrow money from your agent or get a loan out from the bank, right?
Making $4 million a year, you got $2.5 million after taxes, but it's coming sporadically because you probably get paid every game or getting paid every other week or getting paid once a month. I heard Kobe Bryant was getting paid once a year, right? to have the expectations, first of all, you got to understand that the money that you're making as an NBA player, because most of these guys don't have a long, illustrious career. If you go back and you look at the draft class from Joe Smith, who was the #1 draft pick in 1995, most of those guys that was drafted first round and second round, you never heard from them again. Most of these guys get a payday. They have a minimal amount of time that they have to make this money, and they have to live off of it for the rest of their lives. Now, the first expectation when you first get your check after your taxes, and this is assuming that you wanted a higher draft picks, is that you got to buy your parents a $2 million house. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. At some point, we're going to start having a come to Jesus moment, and we're going to realize that you cannot do the things that you've been promoted to do or that you've been advertised to do for what it is that when you first get the opportunity to make some money. When I first started getting money, when I made my first $1 million, honestly, I just wanted to make sure that I kept it. I wanted to make sure that it was real. When I made my first $1 million, I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to sustain this. I'm going to try my hardest and I'm going to go 10 times harder. Thank God I was able to capitalize off of that, make smarter investments or whatever. But I did not go out and buy some stuff. I stayed down in my mom's basement. I stayed living for, when I made my first M, I just wanted to make sure that I can keep it. Hey, we gonna act like this don't even exist. We chilling. We ain't got no debt. We ain't got no problems. My daughter ain't even old enough to understand what money is like. None of that. I'm chilling, bro. I'm chilling. And then you realize $1 million ain't even a whole lot of money. It really ain't even a whole lot of money. It really ain't a whole lot of money, man. Listen, you can blow through $1 million like that without even blinking. You can blow through an M in less than an M. And when I say less than an M, I'm saying less than a month. You can blow through an M in less. Think about what a lot of these guys then do. Some of these guys go out and the first thing that they do is they go and buy a luxury car. And when I say luxury car, I'm not even talking about the cars that I got. I got a Porsche Taycan that cost me $135. I got a Mercedes S-Class that cost me $150, right? I have a Tesla Model Y that cost me like $60,000. I got a Hyundai Tucson that cost me like 40 bands, right? I got a Impala SS that cost me $36,000. So what they buy is they go and get a Rolls Royce Cullinan. And that's going to cost them $400,000. $400,000. They going to go get her, and they can't even write it off as a business expense because it's not a business expense. After taxes, think about $1 million. You already spent $400. You got $600 left, and you ain't even got nowhere to live yet. You spent 40% of your income on a depreciating asset already. And you got to get fresh, and you got to trick up on these hoes, and you want to fly on the PJ, so you're going to be spending $30,000 to $40,000 going back and forth. It ain't like, and this money's supposed to last you for the rest of your life. And so what I did instead was, instead of spending money on that, I spent money purchasing properties. Because I said, listen, at the very least, this thing is going to pay me for the rest of my life. And then I started seeing the money that was coming in from the properties. And I said, all right, well, let's double down since we making double the money next year. And we projected to do just as well. Let's get some more property. And let's get some more property. And we're not going to live off the money that we make. We're going to live off the money that our money makes for us. Every single dollar is an employee, and their task is to go and get more employees. It's going to get more people.
To get them a $2 million house, you got to
Let me also give some shout outs to my parents because they never had any expectation for me to ever take care of them. Me doing that, I do so out of my own heart. My parents never expected for me to take care of them. They always stood on their own square, and we just so happen to make sure that we reward them as a result of it.
$500,000 on it or something. Now they got a mortgage, right? Now you got to furnish that house. Crazy. You got to buy them a car, right? Mm-hmm. Get a new wardrobe. So, before you even started the season, you probably done spent $700,000, $800,000 before.
And they got a mortgage. Think about that for a minute. They're paying interest on a loan in order to maintain a lifestyle that they can't even sustain. These guys went and got a 30-year mortgage. They got 2.5 left, and they went and got a 30-year mortgage because they want to live in a $6 million house. And they're going to upgrade, and they're going to renovate, and they got to pay the property taxes. Do y'all know what the property taxes are on a $6 million house over in Chicago?
You even touched anything for yourself,
Right.
right? So before that season's over with, 90% of the kids are already in their second year's money.
Okay.
They already on their second year's money. So that's all that's happening is like you're putting them in a better situation, right? You know, if they already have a house, fixing the house up or paying the mortgage off, buying them a new whip, right? Trying to, that makes sense. But when you're trying to really just upgrade, forgot you're gonna upgrade them, then you're gonna upgrade yourself. Now 2 people are spending on the same one money.
Yeah.
Property taxes, if you get a $6 million, a lot of people say, hey, buy a multi-million-dollar house. If you get a $6 million house, according to the average county tax rate for Chicago, in Cook County, if you go to Cook County and you get a $6 million house, your annual property taxes are $131,000 a year. Your annual property taxes in Cook County in Illinois for a $6 million house is $131,000 every single year, and it's going to continue to go up. Let me break that down for you. You get $1 million house. Let's go to $2 million. $2 million house in Cook County is $43,000 a year. You're just paying that in property taxes. That ain't got nothing to do with maintenance. That ain't got nothing to do with insurance. That ain't got nothing to do with utility bills. That ain't got nothing to do with repairs. That ain't have to do nothing. That's just 43 bands a year in property taxes just to be able to keep your house and for it to go over to the migrant crisis. That's a fact, though.
And that's mostly what ends up happening at the beginning. Now that player is like, he's really searching for his second check. So let's take like somebody like Zoe, right? That $5 million house that his dad got, that was his, where he had to get a condo. Right? He had to get a condo, so whatever cars he bought, then the water company, right? Then you got to put money in the water company, you got to put money. So whatever your dad wants, that's coming from your Laker money because you didn't get a shoe deal, right? So, most of his early money with the Lakers was being put on Pops and trying to build the company.
Right.
So him signing that new deal gave him relief. Now look at him and then look at the second son. Mm-hmm. Has no responsibilities. None. I ain't gotta buy y'all shit. Mm-hmm. And I ain't gotta buy you nothing. It's already been done. So when you look at the two, when it's all said and done, they can play the same amount of years. One's gonna be living here, one's gonna be living here.
Yep.
Like, one doesn't have, like.
Because it's mindset. Everything is mindset. Everything is how it is that you approach it. Everything is a 10-year view. Everything is looking at it for the long term. I find that people that are a lot more cautious early are a lot more successful long term. It's just a fact, though.
Zoe probably spent $8-9 million of his dollars, trying to build the empire for the family. And the other one, $100 million contract, number 1 pick, right? He gonna touch $500 million like this, right. And Zoe is never gonna hit any of that kind of money. You know what I mean? And that's just the difference of it. Like, when you ask white kids, what's the first thing you bought? They've never said anything about buying their parents anything.
Right. Nah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And they're taught to move the money forward, right? So whatever money they get, they're saving. So when they get kids, they can take care of their kids for their kids to take care of their kids. Right. We're taught when we make money, move back.
We gotta take care of our parents.
We gotta take care of our parents. So by the time we all get kids, there's no money left, right? So the life we gave our parents, we can't give our kids.
That's deep, bro. The life you gave your parents, you can't give your children. Because the expectation is for you to take care of your parents the minute that you make it. And so the life you gave your parents, you will not be able to bless your children with. Your children will grow up wondering where all of the money went. Let me tell you something, bro. I've told this story a lot of times and a lot of people not familiar with it, right? when I was very, very young, I mean a baby, I was a baby, my grandmother was burned in a fire and they had got some lawsuit money, right? And by the time I had became like 5, 6, 7 years old, and it was like a few million or whatever like that, but they distributed it amongst the entire family. By the time that, because everybody was getting little checks or whatever, and they was spending money and going on cruises and having a good time, and my grandmother was riding around in a baby blue Rolls Royce with the white top in Detroit, and everybody thought our family was drug dealers, but in reality, she had got lawsuit money, right? And so by the time I became 5, 6, 7 years old, all of the money was gone. I never got anything. Not one dime, not $1. I never got inheritance, stipend. There was no money put up for the grandkids, no, none of that. So I was old enough to remember and see, right, young enough to see how everybody else was balling, and then old enough to see everybody that left when she ran out of money to give them. So I was able to see it, but I never experienced it. And I learned, because I then got up under her a lot, and I learned from all of the different lessons of how she made the mistakes with the money that then did not allow for her to be able to carry that forward over into her 80s and 90s. So when I became 9, 10, 11 years old, we were still in the hood. 9, 10, 11 years old. Look. We were still in the hood. I ain't get shit from my father except for good lessons. Stop running with that dumbass narrative. I ain't get no inheritance from nothing. I ain't get nothing but property taxes that I had to catch up on for my father when he passed away. No lawsuit, no inheritance, no nothing. My father died as a maintenance man at an apartment building. Why do y'all keep running with this stupid narrative? If there was some money somewhere, if there was a lawsuit, then find the documents and then share them with me so me and my brother can go and get that money and go and collect it and put it up. Everything I got was out the mud. I seen how my family fumbled everything. And the best thing that I got from it, which was more than enough for me, was the lesson of what not to do when I finally became successful. And I wasn't bitter about it. I wasn't bothered by it. It was nothing to be bothered by. I had to catch the Hamilton bus to school, in high school, in the snow, from 7 Mile in Santa Rosa all the way to downtown Detroit. It was the best thing that ever happened to me.
And that's the problem we have. And we're giving the lifestyle that we're supposed to be giving to our kids, for our kids to move it forward. We're giving it to our. So there's no generational. We can't use the generational wealth because we're moving it back.
Right. And we're taught that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we're coming from. But the problem, we're coming from a situation where.
We're already behind the 8 ball.
We're already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, right.
And we're trying to make up for it.
Starting behind them saying
we're trying to
just call it what it is.
Yeah, we're trying to make up for it. Like it should be like, listen, like
you're starting at a deficit is
the kids today, to be honest, the kids today shouldn't really have that problem.
Yeah.
Because I was looking like Wemby, right? How much did you make being number 1 pick?
My total deal was like $15 million.
15 million.
Taxes.
He $55 million.
Dang. 55 M's on his first deal. Dude probably gonna make $750 million by the time his contract is up.
Right. 55, right? He's already like this. It's done, right? You know what I mean? He's right. He's 55. He's 55, like without a shoe deal. That's his Spurs money. So, it's different money now to the point where they can really afford the $2 million, $3 million house and not even worry about it. But that's been the problem. Where we're moving the money back instead of trying to move it forward for our kids to be in that better situation. Like as fathers, we want better for our kids, right? And that's how we dream. And then when we get to that point, it's like, man, my bad, man. I had to take care of grandma.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. But thankfully, my father gave me everything that I needed in order to be successful. He made the sacrifice when we were in middle school not to buy a new car, but instead sent me and my brother to private school. So we went to some of the best private schools in the city of Detroit. They were still in the city of Detroit. And then I wound up going back to public school in high school. And I learned work ethic. I learned not to be entitled. I learned what it took in order to get to school. I never even had a ride to school. We had to walk to the bus stop and get there every single day. I had to make sure that I took care of business. Often at times when we were coming back from school and we would get on that Hamilton bus, we would fall asleep on the bus and we would end up at Northland, and then I had to figure out how to get home on my own. And we still grew up, listen, until I was in my early 20s, my late teens going into my 20s when I got my first job. I lived on Green Lawn between Norfolk and Chippewa and 8 Mile and 7 Mile. Wyoming and Livernois, Sconey Town. Flat out. And so we figured it out. And we made sure that we didn't do nothing illegal in order to get to it. We worked hard. We educated ourselves. Yo, listen, I went to school and I had to take care of business. I remember my first semester, I didn't even go to community college. When I first got out of high school, I went to UAD. I went to University of Detroit, and it was a private college. And that first semester, I looked at that bill, and I had to pay that bill on my own, and I dropped out. And I went back and I went and got a school in the plant. I paid that junk off, and we went and got it, man. We went and got it. So it's worth it to learn a lesson, but it's also worth it to make sure that you can implement the lesson so that you can carry it over into the next generation and then get it popping, all right?